Back on October 16, 2022, we presented our first Top 20 1950s car list in episode 183. This video had more views than any other we've ever posted, over 500,000 to date. We received many comments on cars we missed, and most we agree should have been on a list. The only thing we could do is to present a second list with another 20 of our most requested vehicles. Because the 1950s was the grandest era for iconic automotive styling, massive power increases from the previous decade, plus many technological innovations, there are simply too many great cars and trucks that should have been on the list. So we now present to you here our next list of the top 20 50s cars in this part 2 follow-up video. As we began to research each entry on the list, it became apparent that because of the fascinating histories of each vehicle, it would be a disservice to our viewers to condense the legacy of each worthy example. This is why we've decided to break this video topic into 2 parts. The next installment will be posted next Tuesday in a special video. So we now present to you here part 1 of our next list of the top 20 50s cars. As in the previous one, these 20 legendary vehicles are presented in no particular order. After watching this video, please consider re-watching the previous episode, which we've linked below. If we still missed a car or truck you feel should have been mentioned, please let us know in the comments which ones and why. If we get enough interest to make another list, we'll be happy to make a third video and include the new submissions then. So without further ado, here we go. Number 20. 1955-56 Dodge Femme. During the 1950s, Chrysler's marketing department discovered that more women were influencing the type of cars bought for families and the ever-increasing two-car family. Chrysler built 2 different show cars in 1954, each using the Dodge division's Newport hardtop body and utilizing a clear plastic roof over the passenger compartment. The La Comtesse was featured in a more feminine color motif of dusty rose and pigeon gray. The automotive press at the time received a lot of favorable comments about the La Comtesse, encouraging Chrysler to continue development of this specific market concept vehicle to attract female customers. From the Chrysler La Comtesse came the Dodge Femme. It was unveiled in 1955 as a spring special version of the division's custom Royal Lancer 2-door hardtop. Its exterior was painted an appealing 2-tone scheme of sapphire white and heather rose, complemented by special gold-colored Femme scripts that replaced the standard custom Royal Lancer scripts on the front fender. Naturally, the interiors also received special Femme features. The upholstery had a special tapestry material with pink rosebuds on a pale silver pink background and pale pink trim. Included was a keystone-shaped pink calfskin handbag. Of course, it was color-coordinated with the special upholstery, and it was stowable inside a special compartment on the back of the passenger seat. Each handbag was outfitted with a coordinated set of accessories, including a lipstick case, a cigarette case and lighter, a compact, a comb, and a smaller change purse, all made of either tortoiseshell-appearing plastic with gold-tone metal accents or a pink calfskin and gold metal version. Additionally, on the back of the driver's seat was a compartment that contained a raincoat, a rain bonnet, and an umbrella, all made from vinyl and patterned to match the rosebud interior fabric. Marketing brochures stated that the car was made by special appointment to Her Majesty, the American woman. Femme returned in 1956, accompanied with letters to dealers from Dodge, calling the special model a stunning success. For its second season on the market, Dodge replaced the heather rose and sapphire white paint scheme with a misty orchid and regal orchid. Changes to the interior featured Femme-only seat patterns, headliner, interior paints, and carpet. Also changed were the boxes behind the seats, done to accommodate a new raincoat, rain bonnet, and umbrella that were included. This year, both seat back boxes were identical because the special purse seen in 1955 was now discontinued. In later years, marketing a particular car to a specific market segment would become commonplace. It's said that the Femme was one of the first to accomplish that, if you don't consider the luxury and high-end automobiles made by Cadillac, Lincoln, and Packard, to name a few, that all desired to capture the industry's most well-heeled clients several years earlier. Which La Femme is your favorite, 1955 or 56? Let us know. Number 19, 1956 Lincoln Premier. The Lincoln Premier debuted this year, and it was also the year Ford completely revamped the Lincoln division's offerings in hopes of taking more market share from Cadillac. At the time, even Chrysler's Imperial division couldn't even come close. But alas, by the end of the model year, Cadillac posted a little over 154,000 sales, while Lincoln was able to sell just over 50,000 cars, which was still a big improvement over the previous year's 27,222. What Lincoln management did was to take the most opulent model, the freshman offering of the newly created Continental Division, the stunning Mark II, and place it at the top of all Ford Motor Company's luxury cars for this year. The Premier was positioned right below the Mark II in the company's hierarchy, but unlike the Mark, these beautifully designed cars were available as a two-door hardtop, a two-door convertible, and a four-door sedan. The entry-level offering was the Capri. It was available as a two-door hardtop and a four-door sedan. But whichever Lincoln or Continental a buyer chose, there were many new and exciting improvements this year that spanned the entire line. First, the electrical systems, like their Ford Mercury counterparts, were now 12-volt instead of 6. For Lincoln and Continental models only, an all-new 368 cubic inch Y-block with a 4-barrel Holley-supplied carburetor was the only engine available. It produced an impressive for the time 285 horsepower. A Borg-Warner-built 3-speed automatic transmission called Turbo Drive would get the job done in getting this 126-inch wheelbase 2-ton-plus automobile moving. Along with the Premier's stylish exterior, multiple color choices could be combined as single, two-tone, or even three-tone combination, making this car even more handsome. Another new option was factory-installed air conditioning. The beautifully styled interiors could now receive cool air that was directed through roof vents via a pair of clear plastic tubes visible through the rear windows at each side, connecting upward from the rear package tray. How cool is that? What do you think of the Lincoln models from the mid-50s? Which one's your favorite and why? Number 18, 1954 to 57 Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing Coupe. Many knowledgeable enthusiasts the world over will still argue that the Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing is one of the best ever. This low-production series of cars from West Germany are still some of the most sought after in the world. However, without the input from New York-based Maximilian Hoffman, the exclusive Mercedes of North America importer until 1956, when the Studebaker Packard Corporation took over the entire enterprise, this now legendary sports car may never have been brought to fruition. It's said to have happened something like this. At a corporate meeting sometime in September of '53, Hoffman told the board of management at Daimler-Benz, "What we need over here in America is a great Mercedes sports car." He quickly convinced the board that he was right. Their goal was to enter this huge American market, and what better way to get this done than to offer a flagship model like this? Incidentally, the name comes from cubic centimeter displacement of 3 liters, and the SL is a phrase in German, super leicht, or in English, super light. Daimler-Benz already had a successful race car with their W194 model, which was also called the 300 SL. It was a specifically designed endurance race car made by the company for the 1952 race season, its first entry since the end of World War II. Creating a new model would not entail a total ground-up design. Engineers would simply use the basic W194 design, of which all-out endurance races taught them many lessons. They'd start here and make the necessary specified changes for the new U.S. market. Incredibly, just 5 months later, in February of '54, the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL made its sensational debut at the International Motorsports Show in New York. It was designated model number W198. This new sports car exuded both elegance and innovation in spades. It was the world's first 4-stroke production passenger car to be equipped with direct fuel injection, increasing both the power output and efficiency of this amazing power plant. The immediate success of this amazing and technically advanced motor car continued as both enthusiasts and automotive journalists touted the impressive package by word of mouth and in print, with both its unique design and its extraordinary power. The secret to its success on tracks around the world is its lightweight design that emphasized making it as light yet sturdy as possible by utilizing a compact frame that supported the engine, transmission, axles, and body. It weighed in at a mere 110 pounds. This design left no room for conventional doors. Aerodynamics would play an important role in this 2,497-pound car's speed. Unlike many other sports cars of the 1950s, steering on the 300 SL was relatively precise, and the four-wheel independent suspension allowed for a reasonably comfortable ride and markedly better overall handling. After production ended, the car was deemed a rousing sales success in the U.S., proving that Hoffman was right. More than 80% of the sports car's total production of approximately 1,400 units were sold in the U.S., making the Gullwing the first Mercedes-Benz widely successful outside of its home market and solidifying the maker's reputation. Now Mercedes would have a solid reputation in the U.S., paving the way for many more models, a large dealer network, and many happy customers over these past 70 years. Number 17, 1951 to 53 Hudson Hornet. Hudson was only one of a few America's independent car makers that survived the Depression and World War II. They were based in Detroit, Michigan, and throughout their history produced many beautiful and noteworthy automobiles, including several light-duty pickup truck offerings. It's said that they still had nearly 3,000 dealers nationwide and in Canada at the time. For the purpose of this video, we're going to discuss what, in our opinion, is a Hudson that really made an impact on later general automotive design, and NASCAR racing, and well-built cars that were upscale in appointments, yet were still affordable to buy. These first-generation Hudson Hornets featured a functional step-down design, creating a floor pan and chassis with a lower center of gravity than any other contemporary vehicle of the time. It was a unibody design. This revolutionary idea helped the car handle exceptionally well, a big advantage for auto racing. The Hornet's lower and sleeker look was tastefully accentuated by streamlined styling. The first Hudson Hornets were available in several body styles: a two-door hardtop, a two-door sedan, a two-door convertible, and a four-door sedan. Powering these distinctively styled automobiles was the now legendary Hudson Hornet Inline 6. Loosely based on their previous 127 horsepower, 262 cubic inch inline 6, which was first developed in 1948. This new engine was bored and stroked to 308 cubes with a compression increase and other internal upgrades to the all-new high chromium alloy engine block. Now marketed as the H145, this made the new Hornet 308 the largest displacement passenger car 6 in the industry. With a 7.2 compression ratio, aluminum power dome cylinder head, and a single two-barrel carburetor, its horsepower rating was now 145 at 3,800 RPM. The addition of a dealer-installed twin H-power unit came in November of '51. Dealer service personnel would fit the dual carb manifold with two one-barrel carters along with an improved exhaust manifold on these engines, bumping the output to 160 horsepower. Twin H would become a regular production option for the 52 Hornets midway through the model year. The perfect combination of this engine, the tracking of the step-down design bodies, along with the over-engineered and quality-finished assemblies, made the Hudson Hornet nearly unbeatable in competition events of the time, regardless of whether the track had either dirt or paved surfaces. All four Hudson Hornet models for 52 combined to give the company 43,666 sales. The next year's models only employed some very minor exterior upgrades. The total production for 53 was down to 27,208 units, nearly 37% less than 1 year earlier. For the Hornet's final year of production in 1954, these cars would undergo a major redesign to resemble the new for 53 compact Hudson Jet more closely. This revision meant extensive retooling would need to be accomplished, mostly due to the way the step-down frame wrapped around the passenger compartment. Although the Hornet's redesign positioned it equally with its contemporaries in terms of looks and style, the redesign came too late to boost sales. It also didn't help sales when the news that Hudson was experiencing financial difficulties and would soon merge with Nash Kelvinator to form American Motors Corporation during the 1954 model year. It's a common tale with anything being manufactured and sold. The four models in the Hornet line for the 54 model year tallied up a production of 24,833. Tell us in the comments what your thoughts are on this particular model Hudson. Number 16, 1950 51 Studebaker. Studebaker designs had sometimes been a bit different than the mainstream designs of other larger companies, from whichever era you care to name. Their reputation was more about durability, safety, and reliability. But one design that came to life by stylists at Raymond Loewy's design studio is the iconic 1950 and 51 models, with most of their revisions expertly handled by Robert Bork, a man responsible for several other iconic Studebaker designs. It would prove to be one of the most noteworthy stylings of all time. When the 1950 models debuted, they were advertised as being the next look from Studebaker, and now these cars are colloquially known as a bullet nose for obvious reasons. The 1950 Studebaker models attracted a lot of attention because of their ultra-modern styling. The centered nose resembled an airplane, and the various body styles were radically different from the rounded and bulbous cars of the 1930s and 40s. As the decade progressed, more automakers were adapting styling cues from the jet age, but Studebaker did it first. Now, many will say that 1949 Ford was first with a bullet grille design, but when comparing them side by side, the Studebaker's resemblance to the nose of an airplane or a rocket is much more convincingly rendered than on the Ford. Studebaker sales were fairly strong after World War II and reached a peak with the 1950 model. There were two main series of models offered by the independent automaker, the Champion and the Commander. Styling cues like a carryover from 1949 front bumper, longer front fenders, larger headlamp bezels, and a jet-style hood ornament distinguished the Champion. But the biggest difference is under the hood. The Champion uses an inline 6, producing 85 horsepower from 169.6 cubic inches. The upscale Commander had a slightly larger engine at 245.6 cubic inches, which increased power output by 17 horses or 102 horsepower. 1951 would see the departure of the 245 cubic inch six-cylinder because a new 232 cubic inch V8 would now be available. Studebaker beat several large automakers to the punch when they started building V8 engines. This all-new Studebaker V8 had at least 25% more main bearing area per cubic inch than did Cadillac or Oldsmobile V8s, and more main bearing area than the new 331 cubic inch Chrysler Hemi, displacing almost 100 more cubic inches. It was only available in the Commander series. These 2 years are now highly coveted by car enthusiasts of many different persuasions. We've always loved the design, and we think they're still pretty unique nearly 75 years later. Number 15, 1957-58 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham. After a long and storied career as a stylist at General Motors, the legendary Harley Earl retired in 1958 after reaching the GM mandatory retirement age of 65, but not after presiding over the team that brought the incomparably elegant Cadillac Eldorado Brougham to market in 1957, and then again for the following year. It could be said that this was his masterpiece. The 1957-58 Eldorado Brougham was the epitome of what a Cadillac should be, with no consideration given to cost, but all emphasis placed on using the finest materials available and hand-assembling each car with the goal of achieving perfection as close as humanly possible. The 1957-58 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham was heavily influenced by the four-door Park Avenue show car introduced at the 1954 Motorama. Finally, after the design was tweaked a bit more, the actual soon-to-be production 1957 Cadillac Brougham was first seen at the famed 1956 Motorama show at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. The body was produced by General Motors' Fisher Body Division and was built by the Fleetwood Division. It shared no sheet metal with its other Cadillac siblings. The brushed stainless steel roof blended into the overall design seamlessly. It was more than a stunning styling cue. No, this top was actually part of the structural integrity of the entire car. Cadillac went to extremes with the longest and highest tail fins, which were common in the industry, along with massive amounts of chrome trim, which oftentimes is too much and was considered gaudy. It was more proportional and less flamboyant than any of the other Cadillac models or those of many competitors. Like the Continental Mark II, which GM saw as this car's main competitor, the Eldorado Brougham was devoid of excess trim. Instead, it used that breathtaking stainless steel roof and the lower body side chrome to thoughtfully accentuate the sensual lines. The wheelbase was a rather impressive 126 inches, with an overall length of 216 inches. Naturally, a car this exclusive would only be available on a very limited basis and only to the wealthiest of buyers. The suggested retail price was a hefty $13,074, which was higher than even that of a Rolls-Royce at the time. The interior of the Eldorado Brougham was a special affair with the forward-opening rear coach doors. A choice of leather or understated broadcloth was available in 45 different combinations. When one entered this ultra-luxurious four-door hardtop, either through the front two conventional doors or the forward-opening rear coach doors, every available feature at the time would pamper and comfort anyone lucky enough to be entering one of these beauties. However, there was one feature which was totally revolutionary, but over time very problematic, and that was the air suspension. The ultra-fine 57-58 Eldorado Brougham was powered by a 365 cubic inch V8 engine. For 1957, this engine was fitted with twin Carter 4-barrel carburetors, allowing it to produce 325 horsepower. The next year, the same basic engine resided under the hood, except that carburation was now handled by a trio of Rochester 2-barrels and posting a horsepower rating of 335. The GM-built 4-speed Hydromatic Jetaway automatic transmission was used for both years. There were a few subtle differences between the 2 years, but the cars were basically the same from one year to the other. Because these motor cars were pitched to the ultra-rich and famous, it's not hard to believe that there were only a handful ever built. In 1957, only 400 cars were sold, and the following year, a mere 304 units were purchased. Like the Continental Mark II, it said that Cadillac lost over $1,000 per car, but because it, like the Mark II, were considered ego cars. Each company felt selling them, even at a loss, was smart marketing. These Cadillac Eldorado Bromes have become highly prized collectibles and even investment-grade purchases for their lucky owners. Like every other car on this list, we'll never see anything like this being developed and assembled for a very limited market. What do you guys think of this car, and which year do you prefer? Number 14, 1953 to 56 Packard Caribbean. The incomparable Packard Caribbean models were all developed, assembled, and marketed by the legendary Packard Motor Car Company, a concern that was no stranger to providing their well-heeled clientele the finest motor cars since 1899, but particularly during the 1920s and the Depression era. By the immediate post-World War II time period, the American Big Three automakers were developing quasi-custom models. The few remaining independents had no choice other than to go along with his strategy or die. But wait, one of the independents that would present a car that same year that was so handsome, luxurious, and equipped with advanced mechanical features, new car buyers couldn't help but take notice. All the manufacturers realized that even if they didn't sell many of these impressive cars, they'd at least drive showroom traffic from people that wanted to see them, but would instead end up buying a standard, more affordable marque. Remember the slogan, "Ask a man who owns one"? Well, that all changed at the introduction of the incredible Caribbean model, but it was too little, too late. Of the 4 model years the Caribbean was available, the 1953 offering was undoubtedly the easiest to identify. All were convertibles sporting full cutout rear wheel openings and side trim, which, contrary to industry trends then, was limited to chrome rocker moldings and wheel lip moldings. This styling cue also helped to further delineate the car's radiused rear wheel openings. A steel convertible spare tire kit was also standard. Interiors of the Caribbean were richly upholstered in the finest leather. Most Caribbeans were also generously optioned, which increased profits for the company. A grand total of just 750 were built for the first model year. Impressive considering all the many challenges the company had at the time. For the 1954 model year, the Caribbean was deservedly elevated to senior Packard status. It continued to have its own unique styling features, except the full rear wheel cutouts were now eliminated in order to save significant money on each unit. The use of chrome trim became more liberal in keeping with current trends, but this additional trim allowed for more natural two-tone paint color combinations. The 359 cubic inch straight 8 was used in this final incarnation of Packard's solidly reliable straight 8 engine. A total of 400 Caribbeans were produced for the model year, making 1954 the lowest production. For the Packard's flagship model 1955, the biggest news was that the company was now offering a V8 engine of their own design. Developing this new power plant was a costly undertaking for the company, so styling would have to be clever and resourceful, using many of the previous year's features. Famed auto stylist Richard Teague succeeded in transforming the old Packard senior body into a more modern-looking design. Besides the new 352 cubic inch engine, which made 275 horsepower, a newly designed torsion bar suspension could be found at all 4 wheels. Production for the 55 models ended the year at 9,127 units. For the final model year, the Caribbean was designated as a separate luxury series, and a hardtop model was added to the lineup. Total model year production equaled just 263 hardtops and 276 convertibles. All Packard production halted when the company merged with Studebaker. Which is your favorite year and why? Number 13. Mid-year 1955 through 57 Chevrolet 3100 series pickups. Immediately after World War II, all the manufacturers simply revitalized their pre-war models of cars and trucks to meet the incredible demand immediately after wartime restrictions were lifted. Everyone made the sound decision to develop new models that would debut by the end of the decade. In the case of Chevrolet and their sister division, GMC Trucks, both committed to bringing a totally new design to market as soon as possible. Finally, midway through 1947, the newly designed and highly anticipated AK series replaced the previous Master series. These trucks would be known as Advanced Design for Chevrolet and New Design for GMC trucks. They quickly became a huge sales success, with several variations produced during that time, like the extended wheelbase pickup and the Suburban, to name just two. By the mid-50s, the basic design had only been slightly refreshed from year to year, and the truck-buying public was ready for something new. Development began in earnest in the early 1950s, and the target date for these new models, now known at Chevrolet as Task Force and at GMC trucks as Blue Chip, was 1955. The truck market was red hot, with manufacturers realizing that style and comfort were also on a buyer's must-have list, explaining why many of the most iconic truck designs are from the 1950s and 60s. Because of continued material shortages and restrictions caused by the Korean conflict, General Motors was not ready with their newest models by the time the 1955 model year production started in mid-1954. Because they still had a huge stockpile of the advanced and new design parts, they'd continue production into the 1955 model year. Retooling for the newest light-duty trucks had begun, and with no shortages and restrictions, GM continued unimpeded to produce these trucks for the 1955 model year, albeit mid-year now. They were first sold on March 25, 55, but both the old and the new design series would be sold at dealers until the end of the model year. Many people heard about this all-new truck series and decided to wait, hampering sales of the previous advanced design and new design models, and creating a huge pent-up demand for the new Task Force and Blue Chip trucks. Because GMC trucks were only assembled in 2 plants, and their Chevrolet counterpart was built in nearly a dozen plants, reflecting the disparity between the number of Chevy dealers and the number of dealers who peddled GMC trucks. In my humble opinion, the most breathtaking sub-series would be the Cameo trucks. Ingeniously utilizing bolt-on fiberglass bedside panels, a standard truck could instantly be transformed into something no other manufacturer had offered up to that point: a fleet-side deluxe, light-duty pickup truck. This style of Task Force trucks would only carry on until the end of the 1957 model year, because GM realized that people would now expect all new models every 3 to 5 years. So they were getting ready to debut the revised 58 models, which were still known internally as Task Force and Blue Chip. So for 3 model years and about 2.5 calendar years, truck buyers could purchase one of the most iconic designs to ever come from an American manufacturer. What's your favorite truck from this era and why? Number 12. 1958 Buick Limited Riviera. This car is, in my opinion, perfectly designed both inside and out. Many people would say it's just too big, or it has too much chrome, or other such nonsense. When you look at it in comparison with other American cars of the late 50s, its styling is quite fresh compared to the previous year's offerings, and differed from the other GM models in 58 by still retaining the corporate look, but giving these cars their own identity. Because this year would be the 50th anniversary of General Motors, each division was required to have its own flagship model. For Buick, the Limited would turn out to be a single-year halo car for the division. The Buick Limited series was first seen in 1936 through the abbreviated 1942 models, and for this momentous anniversary occasion, was revived in 58 as the ultimate Buick for the golden anniversary of General Motors. All 1958 models from the General shared a common styling appearance of each flagship model from each brand. Available only as a 2-door hardtop or convertible, along with the incredibly elegant 4-door hardtop, each Limited series was supported by a full-frame chassis with a 127.5-inch wheelbase, while the bodies were an incredible 227 inches from nose to tail. That's nearly 19 feet, people. Inside, buyers were pampered with high-quality fabrics in the hardtop bodies, while convertible buyers sat on full leather appointments. Motivating the Limited down the road was an engine available in other Buicks. It displaced 364 cubic inches with a 10-to-1 compression ratio, utilizing a newly engineered Rochester 4-barrel carburetor. All worked harmoniously to reach 300 horsepower at its peak. Getting all that power to the rear axle is a Dynaflow 2-speed automatic transmission. Buick buyers got a well-seasoned drivetrain combo that was sure to serve them well. In addition, buyers got many standard features for safety, comfort, and convenience, and by checking off the right boxes on the option list, could outfit their car as uniquely as desired. At the end of 1958, Buick had chalked up a mere 7,438 sales of all three body styles of the Limited. The lack of sales can undoubtedly be mainly contributed to its exorbitantly high price tag, but for enthusiasts all these years later, GM's Buick division left us with something special. What are your thoughts on this beautiful Buick? Number 11. All Porsche 356s. After Germany received assistance from her former Allied country enemies for a total rebuild, it was deemed critical that their auto industry would resume almost immediately, getting the latest technology in manufacturing practices and taking advantage of an all-new infrastructure. Behind the scenes, a small auto manufacturer that was not known anywhere except Germany and perhaps the European continent, and was founded by Ferdinand Porsche and his eponymous company, were determined to change that. Porsche, who had also designed the now beloved Volkswagen Beetle, was very familiar with the rear-mounted flat four-cylinder air-cooled engine. So Porsche designers decided to build the 356's air-cooled engine around the engine case they designed for the VW. By engineering new cylinder heads, a camshaft, crankshaft, a dual carb intake, along with improved exhaust manifolds, this redesigned engine made a reliable 70 horsepower, more than double the Beetle's horsepower. Later, the 4-cam Carrera engine, first developed in 1955, as an extra cost option on the 356A, remained available throughout the 356's tenure. In the company's freshman year in 1948, Porsche introduced the aerodynamic 356, named for its design project number. Through 1949, the company hand-built the first 52 cars in a small garage in Austria. The 356 was only built as a coupe from 1948 until 55. The basic design of the 356 remained the same until production ended in 1965, with evolutionary functional improvements rather than annual superficial styling changes. Over time, a variety of other body styles appeared, including a cabriolet, a convertible, a roadster, and even a very rare split-roof model. Several upgrades in these iconic cars included models designated as a 356A, a B, a C, and even a D, whose differences could make a long video all on their own. Throughout production, all these different models were of unibody construction. Currently, one of the most desirable collector models is the 356 Speedster, introduced in late 1954 after the company wanted to enter the American market by supplying a somewhat Spartan open-top model at a low retail price. In fact, these cars were big sellers and immediately gained a reputation as reliable with easy-to-work-on mechanicals. Equipped with 2 bucket seats and an easy-to-remove windshield and top, these speedsters were immediately sought after for daily commutes and weekend racing, particularly in Southern California. It was replaced in late '58 with a new 356D model that featured a taller, more practical windshield, roll-up side windows, and more comfortable seats. The following year, the 356B Roadster convertible replaced the D model, but the sports car market's love affair with top-down motoring was fading. Soft-top 356 model sales were declining significantly by the early 60s. By the end of availability in '65, the 356 and all its variations had become legendary. Porsche's read of the market was dead on. With the introduction of the all-new 911 the year before, Porsche was destined to be one of the world's greatest sports cars of all time. Do you agree? Well, that wraps up our first 10 entries of this second list. Join us again next Tuesday as we present a special edition of the second part of this viewer-suggested top 20 list. The vehicles we'll discuss in detail will be... Nope, sorry, not going to tell you. You need to tune in to find out.